And Mr. President, we are ready to begin when you are.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please? Call to order. I guess it's not the roll time yet, so we'll go to the. I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you can and place your hand over your heart and follow me.
Any of the chains, I don't think anyone has recommended the chief.
So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, Vice President Schaefer, would you do the invocation, please?
Yeah, if you'd all reflect with me, please. Please guide our meeting tonight in a direction that serves all involved in a fair and helpful and respectful manner. Please be with those that are ill and suffering, that they may recover quickly. Amen.
Thank you. Now, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Director Brett Eccles.
Here.
Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer.
Here.
Vice President Mike Schaefer.
Here.
President Robert Uten.
Here.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any announcement of late communications?
No, we do not, Mr. President.
And I don't believe there are any ceremonial matters.
Correct.
So we go to public comments.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone? Okay, Mr. Mosier, you have your hand raised. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, President Uten. I believe it was at the last study session, we heard that the staff was working towards a hybrid meeting format that would be in person with a Zoom option. And I noticed on the contracts approved by the general manager, there was some upgrade to the audiovisual capability in the boardroom. So I'm just wondering if there's an update on when we will be moving to that partially in-person meeting format. Thank you.
Scott, can you answer him quickly?
Yes, Mr. President. So we anticipate our first in-person meeting will be the August study session, which is the second Tuesday of August, which will be August 10th.
And we'll still be able to be on Zoom, right?
Correct.
Yep, because I'll be in Michigan at the time. Any other public comments? We'll go on to the consent calendar then. Do any of the directors have any items that they want to pull or then discuss further? Or do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or any abstentions? Thank you very much. And I don't believe we have a public hearing today. Is that right, Madam Clerk?
Correct.
Okay, then we'll go to the general manager's reports. First up is, I think Joe is going to talk to us about our fats, oil, and greases contract, and that's with EEC, and Joe is with EEC. I saw him on earlier. So
Yes, I'm here.
Scott, you want to introduce him or?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. So before you tonight is our annual assessment of our fog control program. So this is the time of year when EEC Environmental, the consulting firm that manages our fog program, they will give a presentation to the board on our fog control program. For example, you'll hear the inspections, the number of inspections that occurred, the compliance rate, the number of SSOs. It's just really an overview of how well we're enforcing our fog control. As you know, that is part of the WDR, the waste discharge requirement, that all sanitary sewer agencies must have a fog control program to prevent grease predominantly from restaurants entering the sewer systems, because that is a significant factor that causes SSOs. Tonight, Joe Jenkins from EEC is going to be giving you a presentation of last fiscal year's assessment of our fog control program. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe Jenkins now.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you.
And so I have a PowerPoint presentation. I'll bring it up here in a second. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. And so we can just go ahead and go right to slide 2. That was already a good introduction. So before we get into the findings of the assessment, I just wanted to go over some of the FOG program activities that EEC conducts on behalf of the district. And really the first one here is the main activity that we do. It's conducting risk-based FSC inspections and prioritizations of those FSCs. And the idea behind this is we want to focus our resources and our time on the food service establishments that have the highest risk to discharge excessive fog to the sewer system. So I'll go over how we prioritize the FSCs based on risk here in a minute, but a lot of the focus is on the hotspot enhanced maintenance location FSCs. And as part of those inspections, we also provide fog control program education and outreach materials. If food service establishments have trouble maintaining consistent compliance, we may have to do escalated enforcement coordination activities. So that could include sending them notification letters or even having them come in front of the board for a hearing. We do all the FSC data management in a centralized database. And so we track all of the inspection histories and also manage their permits with the database. For new food service establishments, we support plan review, making sure they're installing proper grease interceptors. And then when the cleaning crews are out and they identify areas with excessive fog accumulation, we help with some of the source characterization in the enhanced maintenance locations. Okay, next slide. And so again, part of our task is to manage the FSC inventory and to make sure we're capturing all of the food service establishments that are within the district and are discharging fog. And so we do this a number of ways. The main one is through the county healthcare agency list that they provide us, or we have to go on their website and get it, but they make it accessible. We coordinate with the city and get business license lists too occasionally. And then with new plan review, new FSCs come in, they submit their plans. So we know they're going to open soon, so we can add them to the database then. And we've actually seen a reduction in food service establishments in our database since this time last year. And I'll talk a little bit about why that is here on the next slide. So as you can see from just recently, 2020, 2021, compared to the previous fiscal year, we saw a pretty good reduction in the number of food service establishments. And we knew this was going to happen when we looked at these numbers back in 2019 and 2020, because we knew there was a large number of food service establishments in the database that were potentially what we call limited food preparation facilities, means they're not cooking or preparing their food on site. And so we made a conscious effort in 2021 to go out to those food service establishments and to make sure they should be in the database or not. And the main reason why we did that was because we were renewing permits this year. We wanted to make sure we had an accurate database. But then we did see a lot of facilities going out of business as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and just the nature of owning a restaurant in general. You also see there a reduction in the number of grease interceptors. That doesn't mean that those grease interceptors don't exist anymore. It just means that the food service establishment that they were connected to is out of business. And so when you get a new facility come in and take over that suite, then that interceptor will be active again. Okay. So how we prioritize food service establishments for inspection is through a number of different categories. So first, we look at their presence of what we call high risk cooking equipment. That's grills and griddles and woks and deep fryers. And then also we look at their proximity to an enhanced maintenance location. So these are areas of the sewer system that get cleaned more frequently than annually. And then whether or not they have a grease interceptor, we want to make sure that we're inspecting the FSCs with grease interceptors more frequently, just to make sure that they're maintaining them properly. If they don't maintain them properly, then they can cause a lot of problems. And then also anyone that has extra kitchen best management requirements on top of what's typically required, could be maybe they have to do extra sewer line cleaning, or maybe they're in a hotspot location, they don't have a grease interceptor, and so it's really important that they're doing really good kitchen BMPs. So we take all this criteria, and then on the next slide, we'll see how we prioritize them for inspections. So we conduct some facilities, we conduct quarterly, some semi-annual, annual, and then biannual. Usually if they're in the biannual category, they don't have a lot of high-risk cooking equipment, they're not hotspot located, and they've had really good consistent compliance. So there's not a need to go out and inspect them as often as someone who has more of those high-risk features. Okay. And throughout the year, so once we establish their inspection frequency throughout the year, we do review to make sure that those are the correct inspection frequencies, and there's different things that can affect how often they're inspected once it's established. So their compliance history, if they have a lot of non-compliances or they're causing a lot of problems, we may increase their frequency. If through CCTV observations or maintenance observations, that can affect it. We receive the healthcare agency inspection list, and so we review the compliance history. And so if they have on there a facility that has a lot of non-compliances with the healthcare agency, then we'll prioritize them for inspections at that time. And then just through going out in our own field observations. So illicit activities, maybe dumping grease where they shouldn't be, private sewer spills, or restricted effluent lines could affect it. On the next slide, we have a couple of examples of where we did that recently. The first one, I talked about this during the last assessment, but I just wanted to include it again, just to point out that we're still going and checking on them on a quarterly basis. This was a facility that had a lot of private sewer spills, and so instead of installing a grease interceptor, they increased their hydrojet of their private sewer line to monthly. And so they're still doing that. And then we go in quarterly and look at their invoices and make sure they're staying on top of it. And more recently, there was a small shopping center that I put in here, improper management of yellow grease, but essentially they had a long distance to take their deep fryer grease to go dump it in their bins. And they were spilling it all over in the back alleyway, and then had a bigger spill in the dumpster area, and was causing a lot of messes. And so they got it cleaned up, and then we wanted to increase their inspection frequency, especially for the whole center, just to make sure that they stay in consistent compliance. They weren't pumping their grease interceptors, the way they should be and as frequent as they should be. So they warranted to have their inspection frequencies increased. Okay. So this is kind of a good program trend here with the enhanced maintenance locations. Back in 2011, there was nearly 100 enhanced maintenance locations, but through proactive rehab and rehabilitation programs, doing a lot of repairs in the sewer lines, and just properly diagnosing these locations to help, whatever was causing the EML. Now currently there's 18 locations that are on the list. And most of these locations that are currently on the list are on there because they maybe have a structural issue where it's just not cost effective to go in there and do a repair as it is to just continue to clean the line. Okay. And so a couple of locations that we're still focused on from the enhanced maintenance location, just to stay on top of them. Again, to make sure they're doing everything they can, keep fog out of the sewer system. At one location, the camp and the lab, they just have a lot of food service establishments that are discharging to one location there on Bristol Street. So we've been working with the property owner and property management in there and doing increased inspections of all the facilities, just making sure everyone is staying with the program and pumping their interceptors at the frequency they need to be. And then 19th Street is another situation here where you have multiple food service establishments that, you know, they've been there since before the fog program was established. So a lot of them don't have grease interceptors. And it's just kind of like the whole street there has had issues in the past. And so we've increased B&P inspections for those facilities, and we just make sure that, you know, they're sticking with the program and training their employees, and you know, source control in these locations is kind of the best option. So we're just making sure we're sticking with them. Okay. So a good program trend to look at on how effective a fog control program is just, you know, public SSO trends and seeing what's happening, you know, throughout the years. And this isn't solely attributed to fog inspections and the work the EEC does. A lot of this is through, you know, effective sewer line cleaning and characterization of the sewer system and the proactive repairs that the district does. But the district hasn't had a fog related public SSO since 2014, since 2013. The little spike they had over the previous 2 years, or the district had between the 18-19 fiscal year and 19-20, those were residential fog related SSOs. So that's why we have the 3 lines here. So it's kind of hard to see it, but along the bottom there with the triangle lines, those are non-residential fog related SSOs. So knock on wood, the district is doing a good job in preventing, you know, fog related sewer spills. So some of our recommendations just for the ongoing fog program and fog program management, just to continue with the risk-based focus, you know, inspections and focus fog program activities on the EML locations and the areas where FSEs have the highest risk to discharge fog to the sewer system and cause blockages and cause problems, and to continue to identify those areas. We've set compliance goals for, you know, 10% or less non-compliance rate for BMPs and GREs. These are BMP inspections and then grease interceptor inspections. And we were pretty good, pretty close in meeting these goals this year. As you'll see in the report, we were at 8% for the GRE inspections and around 12% for the BMP inspection. And so just continuing to try and meet that. And then if we're seeing that we're above those goals, looking at, you know, why are we having so many non-compliances? You know, what's going on? Do we need to do a better job, I guess, of working with the facilities so they stay in compliance? And then, you know, elevating enforcement on the food service establishments that have chronic non-compliance issues and excessive fog discharge, especially in enhanced maintenance locations. And so, you know, we issue the non-compliance to them, and we go back and do a follow-up and see that they've, you know, maybe pumped out an interceptor, and then, you know, in 3 months go back and then they're out of compliance again. So, you know, working in those situations to kind of elevate enforcement a little bit to get those facilities, you know, in with the program, so they stay in consistent compliance. Okay, and so I think that's it for me. So if anyone has any questions.
I have a question
Sure.
on the compliance, maintaining the compliance. Say business is not doing well and you tagged them, and how do you handle that? Do you give them so much time where you then know that you're coming back and going to check that did they meet that percentage or whatever?
Yes. And so when we do the first inspection, if we identify a non-compliance, then we'll issue them a notice of non-compliance. It's just our inspection form that basically identifies, here's what we found that was you were not in compliance with. And we put on there like how many days they have to correct it. So for most non-compliance issues, we'll give them like 7 days to comply. And then we'll come back after those 7 days to do a compliance inspection to determine if they corrected it or not.
Good, thank you so much. I wanted to know that, and that was a good report, by the way.
Hey, Joe, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, on your annual inspection assessment report that you submitted also, where is the Tickery El Zambrano?
It's right by my office.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was right, Joe. It's right at Harbor and Baker.
Yeah, it's
It-
it's yeah, it's Harbor and Baker. Yeah.
I've actually been there, and I was going to bring that one up as well. What's really ironic about that is it is a meatless Mexican restaurant.
You're
It's
kidding, really?
vegan, and yeah, everything is, there's no meat. And I was thinking after reading the assessment report, it's a healthy non-meat place. How much frying do they do? But then I got, they fry their chips and all that stuff. So that was an interesting one. And it's right next to a pretty active Vietnamese restaurant. So both of them together probably affect the system pretty heavily.
Yeah, and that was in my presentation. That was the small shopping center that we increased the inspection frequency for. That was that shopping center.
Yeah, where the Vietnamese restaurant doesn't do a lot of deep fat frying or anything, do they? I don't know. I've never been in there.
I believe
Joe,
so.
Joe, I have a second observation on, I'm happy with Denny's, and I'm happy with the lab and the camp performing better.
Yeah.
Those two spots were the key ones for us.
Yeah, they still have a lot of work, definitely, and we don't want to let up on them, now that they're doing well. So we still want to, they're critical locations, definitely, especially the camp and lab area.
Hey, Bob, I had a couple of questions. This is Mike.
Yeah.
So Joe, the camp and the lab, and I don't know if someone can answer this, but does their wastewater system generally flow towards South Coast Plaza? And a lot of that's combined, that activity is combined with South Coast Plaza?
Most of it goes to, I guess eventually it does, but most of it goes to Bristol Street, which then flows south and then hits Randolph and goes up and around the corner up to Baker.
Okay.
And then there's some of it on the north part of it goes north, but the majority of it does that Bristol around Randolph.
So there really is no big effect combining or with South Coast Plaza. They probably go in a different direction.
Yeah, I think so. I think South Coast Plaza hits an OCSD mainline pretty quickly after leaving South Coast Plaza.
Yeah, I think it does too. But the other question I had is, right now the biggest grease situation is occurring in Costa Mesa, and that would be the Orange County Fair. What do we do before, during, or after the fair to see if there's any impact on that area?
Yeah, so we do have kind of some of the more permanent food service areas of the fair in the program. We've never, I don't think we've done many inspections while the fair was occurring. But they do have small traps in there that they use for the kind of the permanent dishwashing areas. Like a lot of the booths where they're preparing food, they're doing a lot of grilling and that sort of thing. They don't use a lot of water in there, and I think they have more of a centralized area where they wash, and then there's traps and interceptors there. And so I think we can prioritize them for an inspection either shortly after the fair is done, or right before it's done, just to make sure that they're maintaining those devices the way they should be. And definitely I would recommend we either scheduling that area for cleaning for the main sewer line, or even CCTV, just to see how it's accumulating. But it's not a hotspot location. I don't think there's ever been any history of issues with the fog discharge from the fair.
Yeah, I think we've had other issues there, but and the fact that it's on state controlled land, I'm not sure how much jurisdiction we have, if we can do a lot. But again, when you think about the fair, everything's deep fried, so there's a lot of grease going through there for a month. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of deep frying, so there's a lot of waste oils. But then everything is served on wrappers and disposable kind of plates and stuff. So there's not a lot of the typical fog generation, a full service restaurant.
Yeah, fair. Very, very good point. Thank you.
Any other questions for Joe? Thank you very much, Joe. It looks like overall you're doing, EEC is doing a very good job for us. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Next item is consider sending Steve Kano and Joe Ortiz to the Tri-State Seminar in Las Vegas. It's one of the bigger regional CWA and other state wastewater associations event. You know, I used to be a large part of it, and I would recommend that approval that we send them to that conference.
Bob, I'll second that motion.
Under discussion, then will they come back and give us a report?
Well, I think as part of the motion, I think that we should ask them to come back, well, to submit some sort of a, say, a written report
Right, right.
to Scott, and then he can determine how much of it he needs to bring to the board. Or do you want more, Arlene?
No, that's fine. That's just as long as he gets something out of it too.
Yeah,
President,
I tried to look up the conference today. I couldn't find the program, but I could, you know, I found all kinds of vendor contacts and whatnot. But anyway,
President, can I make a comment?
Yes.
I think
Director.
last year, Steve Kano gave us a verbal presentation and an oral report of what transpired and what he learned. So I think if he could do that again, that'd be like to hear him.
Okay, say at a study session.
Yes, at a study session would be fine.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Director Eccles.
just a question for Scott. The staff report says it's well within the budget, and that's fine. I'm just wondering, this is just a normal budgetary expense though that we're looking at. There's nothing abnormal here, right?
No, but the reason why we have it on the agenda is because it's out-of-state travel. Our policy is anytime there's out-of-state travel,
Yeah.
we need board approval.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bob, it's Mike.
Mike,
I would just recommend, and Scott, I think you probably have already done this, but let's make sure that Joel and Steve follow all the COVID protocols. And I know there's been some issues in Las Vegas recently, and just a reminder to them to do what they need to do to keep from getting sick.
I believe that the conference is not accepting anyone who's not vaccinated. So
Really?
Yeah, I believe that's one of the courses. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, you hate to even have to bring it up, but I think we need to be cognizant of it.
Yeah.
okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? If not, we'll go on to item number 3, receive and file the annual performance measurement report. Scott, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just real brief. This is our quarterly report on our performance measurements. It just gives the board an update on how we're doing on meeting our benchmarks. I'm happy to report so far, and the first 6 months, knock on wood, we haven't had any SSOs, which is great. But you could also see definitely on the social media side that Nalani and her staff are really doing a great job of getting our message out to the public, and really taking advantage of social media, and how that really helps your brand and getting your message out. So congratulations to Nalani and her staff. But again, just a quarterly report, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do any of the directors have questions on this report?
Real quick, Scott, it's page 8. I think it is page 8. The performance measurement on effective workforce. The 68% red. Can you kind of hit on that a little bit?
Well, so that was last year, 2020.
Yeah.
So last 20. So I can't see that comment. Usually we put something in the comments of why that's not we didn't hit the benchmark. I can't see it. Let me.
But I mean, in your remarks, it talked a lot about code enforcement.
Mhm.
And I don't know
Yeah,
if that,
that's
if
what
that
the
was the,
benchmark is. It's a percentage of code enforcement cases that are closed within 15 working days.
okay, okay. Yeah, no, I got you. And we did have some issues last year with COVID and things. Is that what attributed it?
Well, yes and no. I think some of it it's a staffing issue, or not staffing, but it's just a procedures issue. Staff is maybe not closing the work orders as soon as they should.
Okay,
So yeah, it's a little bit of both.
okay.
Any other
Thank you.
directors have questions on this report? Not, thank you very much, Scott. I think the next item is the budget. I want to congratulate Caitlin on a very thorough presentation, and also thank her very much and staff for the solid waste fund, which shows $358,500 over budget, or not spent in the budget. And staff had predicted that a couple, $300,000. We would be under budget by $300,000. You add those two together, and I think it's a stellar performance.
Mhm.
Scott, how do you want to handle this?
Thank you, Mr. President. Caitlin Tran will be giving this report.
Okay, Caitlin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. In front of you is the fourth quarter budget review for fiscal year 2021. This report is a summary of the district revenues and expenditures through June 30th, with the understanding that the fiscal year numbers won't be final until the annual audit is complete later this calendar year. There are many accounts that are over and under budget. The accounts are analyzed in the attached report for your review. I will give a brief overview of the budget today. First, I will go over the expenditure budget, then the revenues budgets. Expenditure budgets. As of June 30th, a total of 95% of the solid waste budget has been expended. At this time, staff anticipate a budgetary savings of $248,800 for the fiscal year, mainly due to savings in maintenance, operations, and special programs. A total of 86% of the wastewater fund's operating budget has been expended. Staff anticipate a budgetary savings of $317,300 at fiscal year end. And encumbrance and carryover requests will be presented at the board at the September or October board meeting. Now moving on to revenue budgets. Both the solid waste and wastewater fund revenues budget did not meet the anticipated adopted revenue budget amount. The total revenue budget for the solid waste fund, including transfer in from the general fund, is $6,409,500. As of June 30th, the district received 95% of the solid waste revenue. This is approximately $295,700 less than the amount anticipated in the adopted budget. The total revenue budget for the wastewater fund, excluding transfer in, is $5,945,000. As of June 30th, the district received 99% of the wastewater revenue. This is approximately $71,700 less than the amount anticipated in the adopted budget. Please see the attached report for more detail. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do any of the directors have questions for Caitlin? That's a very good report. If there are no questions, then we'll move on to item number 5. receive and file the strategic plan quarterly update. Scott, would that be you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just real briefly, this is your quarterly report on the progress we're making to achieving our strategic goals identified in our 2020-25 strategic plan. And I am pleased to report that if you look at the progressive or the update, you see a lot of green. And that is because staff is doing a phenomenal job of staying on track and staying the course and achieving the goals that the board has set out for us. So congratulations to staff. I think staff is doing an outstanding job. And like I said, this is our first year in our 5-year plan, and we're on our way achieving our goals that are set up for us. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do any of the directors have questions on item number 5?
Good job.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. President,
Director Eccles.
sorry, just a quick one here. To repeat though, great job on this. One thing that I've noticed on the 2 reports, the plan checks. Scott, can you just touch on that and where we're going, hopefully to improve upon those and the time to review and approve?
Yes, well, it's good timing, good question you asked it, because last week I've had a meeting with our district engineer and our staff, Angela, who's currently serving that role of permit technician, and we're talking about what's the proper time it takes to issue a permit, and you got to understand there's different types of permits. There's like repair permits, right? And those are pretty simple. Those permits we can usually get done in a day. Those are pretty much just coming in and have to do a quick repair on their homes. And then there's also the full plans where they actually designs improvements or developments, and that takes some time. And there's a lot of what holds up our reviewing our plans is really the applicant. A lot of times the applicant's holding us our review because they don't submit the proper insurance documents, or they don't present they didn't complete the application properly. So after our discussion, you'll see it in our next quarterly report. We fine-tuned our measurements on how we measure our permit inspections, because a lot of it's out of our control. And so we took that out in the future, and you'll see a greater improvement in the future, because after my discussion with staff, I didn't realize, oh, okay, there was a lot of moving parts in here, and I didn't realize, okay, yeah, we shouldn't be held responsible if it's the applicant that's holding us up. So you'll see that improvement. I believe you'll see those improvements in the next quarter.
Okay,
Well,
great. Thank you.
Well, Scott, are you going to change the wording on the measure?
Yes, the measures will revised too as well. Yes.
Okay, and you'll run that by the board before you do it?
They'll be at the next quarter report. Yes, you'll see it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on item number 5?
Yeah, Bob, I have a comment on item number 5.
Okay.
If I could draw everybody's attention under human resources management, item 7.8, subset number 4. Have the Special District Risk Management Authority perform on-site loss control visit and risk analysis. I'm pleased to report to all of you that SDRMA is now gearing up to start those on-site visits. And somehow or another, our district got put right at the top of the list for a visit. So we will be, I know Scott's working on it. Scott had asked me to find out what was going on. So that's back in force. And like I said, I'm glad to report that we are going to be one of the first ones to be visited.
Do they bring OSHA along with them?
I hope so. At least the manual.
No, actually, we used to invite OSHA on site to be proactive with them.
Oh yeah. So that blue box hopefully will be a green box very soon.
Okay. Do any other directors have any questions? If not, we'll move on. This is receiving files, so I don't. Okay, we'll move on to item number 6. It's a discussion about kind of reshaping our study session in particular. We meet in the morning, and It's been requested that we consider meeting either later or earlier. And Scott, are you going to carry this discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So this item has been discussed at 2 previous board meetings, and the board directed staff to come back with a resolution for your adoption consideration to changing the start time for a study session meeting from 9:30 in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's what this resolution says. So if you adopt this resolution, then your study session meetings will begin at 8 o'clock. So your August 10th meeting will begin at 8 o'clock if you adopt this resolution. So this is an action item.
Okay. All right. Do any of the directors have any questions on this item?
I'll move for approval. I'll move for approval of resolution 2021
I'll second it.
944.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or if there's any discussion, okay, so we're voting. So it looks like it passes. Is there any no votes? No, thank you very much, staff. Appreciate it. Director Eccles.
Save me a lot of headaches on the freeway at 9 in the morning. So thank you. And, you know, Bob, you may have to set your alarm a little earlier, I guess.
Yeah, he'll just take a longer nap in the afternoon.
Hey, Bob is up at 5 o'clock every morning walking.
Yeah.
Go out on the streets and you'd see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the street a lot, Art.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been on the street too much. Okay. We'll move on to the engineer's report. Mike, I think I'm gonna jump off here.
Okay, Bob.
Will you take over?
I'd be more than happy to relieve you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
So then we're going to move to the engineer's report, F on the agenda. Mr. Esker.
Yes, sir. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to keep my report short. I will just give you some information that maybe is even popped up since my report, but I'll start out by saying that the President's Pump Station is still on course to be completed sometime in September. We are still relying on Edison to get their transformer up, and that has significantly slowed things down. But right now we're estimating a completion mid to late September for the President's Pump Station. Moving on to, I will say the best news there is the contractor has, for the most part, opened up the park entrance. So the local community is using that entrance to the park. There will be occasions where if they have to move in a large vehicle or crane or some type of a large vehicle that'll be working outside of our fenced in pump station proper, I'll call it. We will then close down the easement temporarily, but basically right now open most weekdays, after work, and on weekends. So that's good news for that pump station. Iowa force main has started. I'm thinking that most of the force main will be installed today, maybe tomorrow. It'll be completed, not installed. It'll be the installation of most of the force main will be completed today or tomorrow. I didn't get out there today. There may have been delays because of our rain, and the contractor couldn't take soil and some other things to the landfill because they were closed due to the rain. So that being said, I believe the whole entire project will be done next week. And that's good news because the city's going to start their paving project on Iowa Street near T. Winkle Middle School, mid-August, third week of August, something like that. So we should be done in time for their paving project. The other good news is in order to expedite that one, because the 19th Street is still waiting parts off of the boats from China. The contractor who was successful on 19th Street was also the low bid on Iowa. So he stole some parts off of 19th Street project and is using them on Iowa Street, and that allowed the contractor to move forward and get that project done before the city starts their work. So I will say GCI has really helped us out, and it's not going to cause any significant delays or impacts to the 19th Street because there is a lot of materials that we're waiting for on that particular project. And then lastly, I'll just say that Avamore Pump Station and West Bluff Pump Station, we've still waiting on those projects. Materials are so high that I think that if we were to bid them now, we're gonna not just blow the project budget, but the entire budget for the CIP. So I think waiting a couple of more months is a good thing to do. So stay tuned on those two. With that, I will answer any questions any director has about this report or some capital work.
Hey, Mark, are you seeing in the bids? I know in my industry, the construction costs are skyrocketing, obviously causing some consternation. Are you seeing more of an increase in the materials or in the construction cost?
I can't say for certain because when they give the bids like 19th and Iowa, we say, give us a price to install the force main, which includes piping, labor to install, trenching, backfill, blah, blah, blah. And then when we, like valves, there's another item that might connect the force main to the pump station and another item that'll connect the force mains to the existing downstream manhole, for example. So we don't break it out by the materials necessarily versus labor and material labor. So it's typically lump sum for several items. But I will tell you, materials are up significantly right now. Yeah. I heard a report last week. Someone was saying that 2x4s have even gone higher. They're like $7.52 for an 8-foot long 2x4. I'm just flabbergasted that that's an average price for a 2x4.
Yeah, like I said, it's really reflected in our homeowners insurance rating and construction costs. So it's going to trickle down to a lot of different people. I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful that as soon as materials start coming in from China and other countries, and now that our economy has opened up, hopefully factories will start putting out the materials and the raw materials and the things that we need to manufacture, say pipe or ductile iron fittings. I'm hoping it'll pick up pretty quick.
Good. Other questions for Mark?
Mr. Vice President?
Go, Brett.
I just, Mark, I agree, the hope and a dream and a prayer, but those materials and equipment, not only just for those who may be not familiar, it's not only the price, it's the lead time. The lead time is the worst I've ever seen it. And now I'm hearing it's not getting better, it's getting worse. The materials are going up again. So it may be more than a couple months, I hate to say it. So
well, if it will, Director Eccles, if it's more than a couple months, I'll have to confer with our consultant and our general manager, and we'll have to bring some type of a strategy to the board of directors. But at this time, I'm going to say maybe we ought to be waiting a little bit, see what happens to the market. Maybe that's the more appropriate statement I should make, is let's review the market in about 2 months and then come back with some recommendations.
I would concur wholeheartedly, because right now it is a guess, and guess wrong and it gets ugly. So thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Brett. Other directors, questions or comments? All right, then we'll move to the treasurer's report, item G. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, board members. This is your quarterly review of the investment portfolio for the district. Market continues to be going gangbusters, although if you look at any one day, you could have very volatile swings in any given day. But today we were up 83 points on the Dow, but year to date we're up 4,500, which is like a 14.8% increase since the beginning of the year. So great news for everyone's retirement plans and 401ks, and just hopefully it keeps going for a while. On the Treasury front, 5-year Treasury, which is kind of our safest benchmark of the types of investments you can place money in. The year we started out at 0.36%. Today it closed at 0.73%. So that's up 103% on the year in the rate on the Treasury. Your portfolio at June 30 was earning 0.565%. That's exactly flat from May, which is good news. We've been going down for about a year now. Every month we've been seeing a little bit lower rates. We were exactly flat for the month of May. I'm hopeful that maybe we might see this be our bottom and hopefully maybe a little bit of an uptick as we move throughout the balance of the calendar year. The duration of the portfolio is 2.3 years. During the month of June, we did have 2 investments that were called. We had one medium-term note that was earning 1.2% and one home loan bank that was earning 1%, both get called. We were able to replace those investments out with 3 different investments, earning one home loan bank at 1.05% and then 2 medium-term notes, one at 1%, one at 1.25%. So we were able to better ourselves a little bit on the calls when they got replaced. So again, hopeful that we might see a little bit of a turn here, but time will tell. With that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mark. Hey, maybe we ought to invest in car warranties. I've been getting a lot of calls about car warranties, so that must be a good good industry to be in. Sorry. Any questions for Mark on the investment report?
No.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
Move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you both. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimous with those present on a four vote with 1 absence. Okay, let's go to attorney's report. Counselor, anything for us this evening? Mr. Burns? All right, not hearing from Mr. Burns. I don't know whether he's not with us or, oh, Alan, you're muted, I think.
There I am.
There you are.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. I would just share with the board and staff that the city of Anaheim has had no follow-up from Riverwatch after we sent a letter with the appropriate response like this district did. So just for your curiosity, Riverwatch seems to have gone away in Anaheim.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Throw the darts and when they stick, they go after them, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Any other questions for Alan? All right, thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you.
So local meetings, Art, do you have a report on OCSD or?
No, I haven't attended yet. I think I'm attending this Wednesday as to watch because Bob's going to be gone next month.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have a report yet.
Okay. Anything on SARFA?
They canceled the meeting this month. They usually do for July. So maybe 2 months I'll have another report.
All right. Thanks, Art. Arlene, you want to do ISDOC and CSDA then?
Sure. To start out with, I'm so happy to announce that Joan McKinsey made the seat A. So she's really good to work with and that's great. And, you know, this is interesting because all the seats in special districts were up and every single incumbent that ran made it. I thought that was interesting factor. So apparently some of us must be doing what we should be doing. Then also on the annual conference that's coming up, which is August 30th through September 2nd. And hopefully everybody's got their actually their flight and everything that they need. This is going to be a large turnout for the simple reason that we're doing nominations. We gave it to the Professional Development Committee, and so they made all the recommendations. So you will not only get the people who are going to be honored as the person of the year for CSDA, but also it's something that the special districts members will want to come to be part of it, which is nice. So anyway, we're having a good turnout. We've got 3 hotels, and they're also looking for any kind of donations or gifts of any type for our for fundraiser that we always have at this event. And that's on that. Then let's see, the next thing is the CSDA is having their speakers meeting. Actually, it's a general meeting, and it will be this Thursday. And hopefully some of you can make it.
You mean is doc this Thursday?
Yeah, that's why I said is doc.
Oh, you said CSDA, so.
I did? Ooh.
No, but that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, it does. I'm sorry. Anyway, ISDOC's having their meeting, and the guest speaker, of course, is from he's Joel Belding, and he is Deputy Director of the Orange County Great Park Planning and Development. And so that'll be an interesting topic for us to find out what's going on. None of us know what's going on at the park itself. So this will be a way that we'll find out. And then also the highlight speaker is a special, we always do a special district speaker so that we get to know who's, besides just us being there, who's a special district and more about them. And this time it's Placentia Library, which ought to be good. And that's a highlight. And then the one that I've got is it's a social, actually he is a social member, but he already joined about 2 months ago, but he wasn't able to attend our meetings. So this time he's coming, and it is a former Senator Dick Ackerman. So he'll be talking and telling a little about what he's doing now, but he has now joined ISDOC. And then on the membership renewals for CSDA, we're doing very good. And we've got 98% in already, which is really good. And then what else? On the legislation budget, because everybody was not everybody, but a lot of people were so good about writing letters, all the special districts, and writing these letters to the legislators. It helped us as far as getting some money for special districts. So we're going to get $100 million, and that'll be split up. But it's good because we were recognized by the legislators, and before that we were not recognized. And then also, let's see, we have our lease is up for CSDA on the executive committee. Actually, we've been looking at it, and so now they came back to us. CSD. I don't know where I have my minutes on it. Anyway, SDRMA came back and asked us, what we wanted to do, and so we have now commented to them. So we're waiting now for our meeting in August, and we'll be September, one of them, and we will be we made a counter offer, and then we'll be discussing that with the executive board. And then looking at what else. So for Waco had a meeting and conference. It was, the speaker was Dimitri. He is a planning manager, and he's a water advisory committee team member. And he said that there's about, what is it? We have we have lower than anybody, all in the 21, I think 41 counties. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read my minutes and I'm having trouble here. Okay, so anyway, there's a drought emergency that they're calling to discuss this because of the 41 counties in California that are being affected by what's happening. So, and that's, let's see, aside from that, there's what is it? Secretary Clerk Conference, and it's going to be this time in Anaheim, and it'll be at Embassy Suites, and it will be in September. And that's about it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. SDRMA, I have nothing really to report for SDRMA. We have a board meeting in August, so nothing really to report. Anybody else have any other meetings? Okay,
No.
not hearing any. Old business, we're clean on old and new business. Oral communications and director comments. Any comments from any of the directors? Okay, not hearing any from staff. Okay, I guess we are to item O, and this evening, I'm going to request that the board adjourn our meeting tonight in honor of former city council member and Midway Sanitary District Director Margie Rice. I'm not sure if you all saw the email, but I know it came in late this afternoon from staff that Margie passed away this weekend. And at 92 years old, she lived as good a life as a lot of us would aspire to. And Margie's impact, not only on the city of Westminster and Stanton, I'm sorry, Midway City, but her impact on the county and the state of California was immeasurable. And so Margie, rest in peace. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting in the memory of Margie Rice. Thank you all for attending.
Good job, Mike.
Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.